So, a relationship is never wasted unless it's a bad one, right? Or a detrimental one. Of course, we need to remove those from our lives. But what I would say to anyone that's at the beginning of their career or just moving through their careers is never underestimate. You have no idea where that person will be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. That's not the only reason we're building relationships. Relationships create health. Relationships build our immune systems. Relationships ward off depression, anxiety, and loneliness, things that literally kill you. So having good relations is good for your health, mental and physical. But beyond that, it is good for your career because, as I said, you never know where that person's going and where you're going to meet them next and who they might know, right? Who they might be able to introduce you to that might help you in your career. So there's no such thing as a wasted relationship, I don't think. I think those early years were about building credibility, building resilience, proving that you can commit to things in a way that's really beneficial for you and for others. So yeah, I think, that's probably what that taught me. And again, that leads to the relationships, and those relationships stand the test of time. And today I still have many of them, I carry them very much with me.
Powerful. That's in terms of relationships, what do you think really works well? What do you think if someone who's in their late 20s, early 20s, maybe early 30s, they're building those relationships, but they're not looking at the long term game? They're, again, focused on the short term. What would your recommendation be? What would your advice be to be investing in the right relationships?
Look, I think it's really important. And today, so now, I had a corporate career. I was in the corporate world for about 16 years. Now I have a very entrepreneurial life. My entire work is based on relationships with others and connections with others. And all the time, I'm surprised with the relationships that come back. So last week, I was in London. And I had a phenomenal opportunity. I'm flown there in beautiful comfort. I get to stand on stage and live my dream and present to 700 people and stay in lovely hotels and all the things that I dreamt of. That client knew me when I was probably 24.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking. And she came back out of nowhere and said, "Hey, Mimi, we haven't spoken for a very long time, over 10 years, but I've been following quietly." I didn't even know she was there. I never knew she was sort of following my LinkedIn or anything like that. "I've been watching you for years, and now I'm in exposition, and I would like you to come and do this with my company." So, a relationship is never wasted unless it's a bad one, right? Or a detrimental one. Of course, we need to remove those from our lives. But what I would say to anyone that's at the beginning of their career or just moving through their careers is never underestimate. You have no idea where that person will be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. That's not the only reason we're building relationships. Relationships create health. Relationships build our immune systems. Relationships ward off depression, anxiety, and loneliness, things that literally kill you. So having good relations is good for your health, mental and physical. But beyond that, it is good for your career because, as I said, you never know where that person's going and where you're going to meet them next and who they might know, right? Who they might be able to introduce you to that might help you in your career. So yeah, there's no such thing as a wasted relationship, I don't think.
Yeah, and then I'm going to come back to one thing that you said, but I want to kind of move into this the work on empathy. And I've listened to a lot of your videos. I've read a lot of your LinkedIn posts. You've been interacting there. It's really powerful. But the first question is like, how did it emerge for you that this is going to be your life's work? Because it sometimes is like an epiphany, the light shines onto you, or it could be something that gradually happens. It's different for everyone. So what was your journey like? How did it call upon you that your life's work should be around empathy?
I don't think for me there was any kind of, like you said, like a lightning bolt
Yeah.
moment. What happened for me, I moved to the Middle East in 2018 for a CEO role, and that CEO role didn't turn out to be quite how I expected it to be on paper. That process, that experience, first of all, it was incredibly hard, probably the hardest I'd ever had, led me to write my first book, Softening the Edge, which ultimately changed my life. Was no moment when I was like, right, I'm going to write a book to change my life. That wasn't how it was. It was a learning process. We talked earlier, Kash, about openness and open-mindedness. And when I went through that process, so I was in Dubai, I was trying to turn around this business. I honestly didn't know what I was doing. It was not from my skill set. I had never done anything like that before. And I went to meet a business coach. And during that conversation with that business coach, she was talking to me about my leadership style. And she asked me a question that in the end changed everything, which was, is your leadership around intuition, which is what I thought at the time, or is your leadership actually based on empathy? And, when someone asked me that, I remember thinking, no, like what's empathy got to do with it? Why is she asking me that? But of course, in hindsight, she could see something in me that I hadn't even known to look for. And what that led to was me discovering empathy and what empathetic leadership is. And this was about 5 years ago when really nobody was talking about this.
Yeah.
So it was a journey that I embarked on. I discovered it and I felt so passionate about this conversation. And I couldn't believe that nobody was talking about it. I couldn't believe that, this wasn't part of the rhetoric and that organizations weren't witnessing or recognizing this deficit and the impact on their businesses and their bottom line, as well as the well-being of their people. So I don't remember, like you can see my eyes looking up because I'm trying to access my memories. I don't remember a day when I was like, well, nobody else is talking about it, so I will. It was not like that. It was just like this very organic process that I discovered something that I felt more people should know about this. We can talk about this. And then I had a book and it was a bestseller and I had a podcast and 85,000 people came. And, over that time, sort of my life changed. But in all honesty, only in the last about 4 months, and we're talking, so it's been 5 years, and in the last 4 months, did I have a moment when I suddenly almost realized I've done it. Like I'm living my life's purpose. Until then, it was a passion. It was a calling. I loved it. I always loved it from the day I uttered the word. But it was only very recently. And that's why I talk so much about this hard work and consistency and tenacity, because at any time in those 5 years, I could have sort of changed track and started speaking about resilience or purpose or any other hundreds of things.
Yeah.
It took that time until one day, very recently, I sort of realized I'm doing it. There's far more for me to go. Like, I don't think the journey's anywhere near sort of done, but just that recognition that now I'm living my life's purpose and an acceptance, I think, from the universe that I was put here to do this, but I definitely didn't start there.
This is so powerful. I mean, I'll have to go back and listen to this again because there are parts of it that you're saying that I want to kind of note down and imbibe. So a few questions. One is just this phrase that you said, acceptance by the universe. I think that's very powerful, and we could kind of have like 30 minutes just on that phrase. But what allowed you to keep going for 1800 days, almost like 5 years, if I'm doing the math right, 365, 1800 days without stopping, 1800 days with tenacity, with all the hard work and whatever you're sharing, it takes still more than just mere words to go on for that journey. So what was that guiding force that said, Mimi, you're not going to stop, stay on the path?
I don't know. Passion, I think. I think passion, but I think to kind of unpack that a little bit more, a lack of doubt. And I think this is really, and no one's really asked me this before, so I'm thinking it through, but I think it's a lack of doubt, which does not mean that I didn't have a lack of confidence. So in that process, I was not full of confidence. So that also has been a journey for me and continues all the time.
Thank you for watching this clip. If this was of value, then you would love this full podcast episode with the guest that you just saw. I'm just putting this link somewhere left or right of me that you should just click on and watch the full episode. We talk about deep ideas, insights about life, leadership, you as an individual and you as a professional in this beautiful yet so chaotic world of ours.